So just to let people know exactly what you're studying. I think that's that way we can lead into the next question.
Sure. So I study. I'm a part of many studies within the lab. I study the RGV sample and suicide among Hispanics. I study, sexual minority stressors in lesbian, gay, and bisexual young adults, and we study people of color in those groups as well. And again, in our lab, we also study the colonias, which is specifically people of color.
So let's touch on the gay and lesbians part, because
Sure.
I'm not too familiar with that part of I guess the world, right?
Right.
So maybe you can educate me on that. So there's actually differences that the people within that group have within themselves.
Right.
So touch on that, because I find
Sure.
that fascinating, because they're one group, right?
Right.
We put them in one group and then we expect them, like, they're all the same. I guess that's
Right.
like everybody has the same thoughts. Like
Right.
all Mexicans are the same, right? So touch on that. What has your research showed?
Sure. So, like you said, we all kind of group them into one, like, oh, they're sexual minorities and that's their thing. But within a sexual minority category, each person of color can have a different experience a different experience. And specifically, people of color versus non-Hispanic white individuals can have different experiences. So if you think about it, as a person of color, you may experience racism or backhanded racism, discrimination based on your ethnic identity. But then on top of that, you can receive discrimination for being a sexual minority. So that's kind of what we study. Specifically, what we've seen is that there are some scales that we use. Specifically, what we've seen is that people of color often experience both their ethnic discrimination and discrimination on the basis of sexual minority status, like almost double. So for example, a white lesbian, gay, or bisexual individual could still discriminate against someone that you would think is a member of their own group. So the person of color might feel not welcome in both their background, like their ethnic identity, and in their sexual orientation identity.
So I would assume that's within the LGBT or right. So I don't know how many letters are in that thing anymore.
Every day there's more added, yeah.
Right. So even within those that little group, there's obviously tension between those people because they're so different within themselves. What do you think that stems from?
So I definitely think that stems from the need for humankind to other individuals, I suppose. So for example, if you're a white LGBT individual, you see actually within the LGBTQ plus community, there's it is kind of rampantly racist. So for example, there will be people who will say, well, I don't date Asians, I don't date Blacks, I don't date Hispanics. There's people who specifically put that label on you or specifically try to avoid you, even as a member of your own group.
Interesting.
Right.
That's fascinating. Where do you see it going? I mean, obviously, we're sectioning off America into different buckets, different areas, and we're segmenting everybody. Do you feel like there's just going to be two people in a group now and everybody just goes off on their own? Where do you see that going in the future?
I definitely see intersectionality playing a bigger role. So basically intersectionality is, again, like the intersection of identities. So for example, if you're a Hispanic male, then that's your intersectional identity. If you're an Asian woman, then that's your intersectional identity. And everybody has different intersections, even if you're white, even if you're a male, right? So I definitely see in the future more research that crosses those paths, like seeing people of color who are also lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, etc. People who are low income but are people of color or white, non-Hispanic, things like that, to make sure that we have a more colorful and wide range to study from.
So this is nationwide, the actual data that you're taking, or is it here in the Rio Grande Valley?
The LGB survey is nationwide.
Okay. And have you done any studies here specifically in the Rio Grande Valley?
We have
you touched
not.
on that? No?
Actually, even within the national sample, it's very hard to get these specific, because you're looking for very specific people, right? So it's really hard to obtain